Sal Berry and Tim Parish. This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry and with me is Tim Parish, and today we are joined by a special guest. Paul Zickler is the Senior Sports Brand Manager at Upper Deck, and he has so graciously joined us today to talk about some of the changes to Upper Deck hockey cards and some other exciting stuff coming out. Paul, thank you for joining us on our podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to ask, you've been with Upper Deck for about 5 years now.
Yeah, 2017, so actually going on 7. But this is my second stint. I actually interned here the last time the Canucks were in the Stanley Cup, which is a sad memory. But 2011. But my current stint, I've been here since 2017.
So you interned with Upper Deck back in 2011, and then you came back, you said, in 2017.
Yep.
So what does a senior sports brand manager do exactly? Sounds important.
Yeah, I know it does sound important, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to get products out the door, work with the team, to keep them moving. Obviously, we have some profitability targets and trying to keep them on track is part of it. But ultimately, get the products out and also work with the external partners like the NHL and AEW, just to name a couple, and make sure that, we fulfill their needs as well.
Okay, so let me ask, when you were younger, did you collect cards at all, or was cards something that you kind of came into later, like through your career?
No, I think I'm a prototypical collector. I think obviously when I was young and I played minor league hockey in Vancouver, I was a big Pavel Bure fan, Trevor Linden fan, and collected cards for sure. And then kind of during my later teenage years kind of fizzled out. And then I got back on the bandwagon, when I started interning here and worked at Major League Baseball Players Association.
Let me just ask, because I always think this is a fun thing. From your childhood or your younger years or whatever, what was your favorite hockey card or hockey card set?
Honestly, I can tell you now, but one of my first Bure cards, I think it was his first rookie card, was sort of the memorable one that I remember. But I have a couple Sedin Young Guns. They were obviously wearing, they're wearing their Swedish colors, are in my collection now. I can tell you which product I like to work on the most.
Okay.
I would probably say Tim Hortons is up there. We've done some revolutionary stuff with Tim Hortons, and we continue to push the envelope there. And I'm a fan of UD1. That kicks off our calendar in terms of the first major core release. We're going to talk about that today, but we're constantly figuring out ways to innovate and, improve our content. And, that one's close just because we've done some updates to that recently that we're hopefully going to talk about today.
Well, I guess we can talk about that now.
That's why we're here. We all heard the announcement. So first things first, let's get the verbiage down. Are we calling this a reboot, a refresh, a reimagining? What are we calling this?
Refresh is what we used, I think, on our solicitation doc, that our presentation that went out to customers and was on our blog post. So I think refresh is the way to do it. One thing that's worth noting is that, over the 30-year history, yes, although it's been more than 20 years since, we've had the 8 cards per pack, 24 packs per box configuration, there's been points through the brand's history where we've had a 12-card pack. Don't quote me on the years, but I was looking back. I think it was 93, 94 through 97, 98. So we have had in the brand's history at some point a thicker card pack. So it's not totally new to this space, but it has been a long time since we have sort of reconfigured the product.
So just to reiterate for our listeners, so what's going to happen in 23-24, starting with Upper Deck Series 1, is that a box of Upper Deck Series 1, instead of having 24 packs like it has in the past for like 20-ish years, it's going to have 12 packs. But the packs are going to have 12 cards per pack instead of 8 cards per pack. But on the flip side, then, you're going from 192 cards per box to 144 cards per box. However, there's going to be less base cards per box and more inserts per box.
You nailed it.
clarify
I
that.
don't think you even need to have me on the interview here. You did your research, Sal. So
Oh, well, I know the what, but you're going to give us the
Yeah.
why.
yeah.
He's the stats guy.
Yeah,
If you
and
can believe it.
so first off, like I said, one of the core, initiatives that we work on constantly with our product team and our entire team is try to improve the content delivery. And, at the end of the day, I think collectors, including myself, and I may not speak for the entire collector community, but I definitely know, a high proportion of them sure like the insert cards. So while there are set collectors and people will still be able to do that, we felt that delivering more insert cards in lieu of, sort of base cards would get collectors excited about sort of the additional content. So that was sort of one of the concessions we made. And listen, when I opened a pack of UD1 when it was an 8-card pack, I immediately started sifting through to find my insert card before checking out the base cards. And so that is an easy sort of, concession to make in lieu of sort of getting those 2 additional inserts.
I think obviously the change announcement it's big, especially for collectors, and hockey collectors are weird when it comes to overall people. I mean, anybody that's been around the industry would probably agree with that
Yep.
they're a little different, and let's just say they fear change. So I think just talking to people and hearing kind of the buzz going around this, I would say collectors are looking at this from, let's call it guarded optimism.
Yep.
And, we interact with a lot of collectors, many of whom are our listeners on a daily basis. And I can honestly say I've really heard none of them say that I can't wait for an Upper Deck to give me less packs and less cards in a box. So I guess overall, my question is, what went into the overall decision other than trying to, boost up the inserts and that kind of thing? What was kind of the overall thought process to come up with a drastic change for the flagship product? And were you worried that it was going to cause riots in Vancouver and Montreal?
Yeah, the 30
It's
for
2-part
30.
question.
I heard the 30 for 30 is coming out about that, another black eye for Vancouver.
Yeah.
No, but I think I want to just go back to your initial point before about, collectors being passionate and sort of to the way things were. Yeah. And that's extremely true, right? And we wanted to ensure that some of the core tenets of the content delivery remain the same for that specific reason. So the Young Gun delivery is still the same as it used to be. Before, it used to be 1 in every 4 packs. Now it's 1 in every 2 packs. So collectors are still going to get their 6 Young Guns in every box, even though we're going to a 12-pack box configuration. Likewise on the canvas. So, the canvas combined, the base set canvas and the Young Gun canvas combined to be 4 per box, and that's going to hold true in the new configuration. So some of those core tenets, content tenets that have been around for more, for a long, long time, we're going to continue to deliver those. It's just at a slightly different ratio with the pack sort of configuration. So in terms of the other sort of big other items that you mentioned, is we did take the opportunity to add new content in addition to sort of the configuration changes. So some of the new content is we've added 4 base set parallels. That's going to be new to the product this year. And when I say base set parallels, you guys obviously know that that's going to include the Young Guns. So we're going to have 4 new base set parallels: Outburst Silver, the Deluxe Outburst Red, and the Outburst Gold parallel. And 3 of the 4 are going to be serial numbered, right? And that includes the Outburst Gold, which will be the first ever 1-of-1 Young Gun. So
you brought up the elephant in the room, the 1-of-1 Young Gun. That's what everybody wants to know about.
Yep. So in lieu of sort of reconfiguring, and we did understand obviously that some of the base cards and total card delivery was going to be less, as we added some additional content as well. And, those new base set parallels are going to be in addition to the high gloss and exclusives. It should be the other way around. The exclusives and the high gloss that have also been a core tenet to the delivery. So, there's never been a 1-of-1 Young Gun. We had some strong debate about adding that in, but what better year to do it with the generational talent, with the next Connor, joining, the NHL highly anticipated debut of Connor Bedard.
I've heard rumors that this was in the works for a while and it was just kind of backburnered for a little bit. Any truth to that? Or is this something that kind of was motivated a little bit by Connor number 2?
Yeah, no, I think it's been on the burner for a while. We're very strategic with sort of the parallels that we release. And, as you understand, we've done a great job establishing the values with the high gloss and sort of the exclusives. And we don't take it lightly when we add to that sort of, delivery model. So I can just say that it was highly debated. And, I think that it's going to be a unique thing. These outburst parallels look substantially different than sort of our base design, which includes the exclusive and high gloss. But it was very well discussed. We put a lot of insight into it before sort of ultimately bringing it to market.
Let me ask a question about those parallels. So those that collect physical copies, but also have gotten involved with EPAC over the years, are well aware that, you have the melding aspect of the cards and combining the base cards to make the silver foil parallels and the speckled parallels. Are we doing away with those in place of Outburst? Or are those also going to be available through EPAC? Or is there going to be a crossover? Or
Nope, there's not going to be a crossover, at least not as the plans now. The stacking parallels are going to continue to remain on EPAC. And we had this same discussion, honestly, obviously I hear it through sort of, the people that are still around, but it was highly debated, when we launched those sort of stacking parallels on EPAC, similar to how it's getting debated now that we've sort of released the 4 new base set parallels for 23-24. So we've definitely seen this conversation before. And it didn't take out or diminish anything away from our sort of base young gun values. It just expanded upon it. And that's what we're hoping with these additional base set parallels. They're extremely low numbered, and they're extremely differentiated on their design, but it's definitely going to add value. And I'm just anxious to see, like everyone else, how they end up performing on the secondary market once they're released.
it'll be interesting to see them live and in person, because I imagine you have these on maybe like a heavier foil board.
I believe, yes, they are on a foil board, but
Okay.
I think it's standard. It will still be 20 point. All cards in this product are 20 point, other
Okay.
than the mem cards.
I mean, the preview images look pretty cool with the erasure of the background and
Yeah.
instead having that kind of
Yeah.
that burst effect that they've got on them. So
For sure.
yeah.
And we wanted to make sure that the design was clearly differentiated, right? That was another aspect. The other thing I want to note, just because you mentioned sort of the reasons for making the change, the other thing is obviously a thicker pack, less cards. It's easier from, there's efficiencies on the pack out and the production line. There's also environmental sort of benefits to that, because we're obviously wrapping less packs. It's less time on the line. Any of the blasters, those get hand packed, individual packs. So all of those too, there's going to be some efficiencies both on the production side and material side.
So because the production costs have gone up over the years, especially the last 3 years, I'm going to guess that's a lot of this decision was kind of a production cost cutting.
Honestly, the cost was less of a factor. Time of pack out, I think, would be one. Just efficiency. Obviously, we had tons of roadblocks in COVID. We're getting out of them. But it wasn't just a cost factor or production capacity. It was kind of a myriad of factors. But definitely, it helps us from the production efficiency side.
Sal, I'm taking over like the whole show, so you
No,
need
man,
to ask something.
you're crushing it. You have a great train of thought going. I didn't want to derail it.
So just what we're talking about, production cost, the time that it's taken, making these more environmentally friendly, using less packaging materials, efficiency. I get all of that. That makes perfect sense. Not everyone shares the same logic pattern as I do that's in the hobby.
That's what makes the hobby so good.
Yeah, and we got a lot of folks out there that are saying, "Oh, well, Upper Deck's only doing this to appease the breakers." I'm sure you've probably heard that.
Yeah, for sure, and definitely the breakers will likely like this model because it's less packs that they have to open. Another benefit that on their side they're probably going to appreciate for sure.
Well, and certainly the fact that they don't generally ship base cards and they'll have way less of them to deal with.
Right. Correct. So, that's a very valid, feedback. And I think they're going to appreciate this change for sure. But like I said, there's a number of other considerations that are going to benefit, hopefully, the hobby collector as well, that purchase it in the store, like we said, with the additional inserts and some of the additional considerations with some of the new parallels.
See, I kind of go both ways on this change. Like Tim, I like to build base sets. And if there's too many inserts, then I feel like it's keeping me from completing a base set, especially when those inserts are parallels. But at the same time, like you yourself said, you'd always go to the middle of the pack to look for that insert before you look at the base card. So I always feel like if I don't get an insert, I feel disappointed. And if I get too many inserts, I'm also disappointed. Now, on the other hand, though, I think that there is a real big problem with base cards. There are too many base cards because you had such a high ratio of base to young guns. You would go to a show and dealers would have like monster boxes of base cards for like a dime each and nobody wants them. And you try to sell a base set. Maybe you buy a few boxes, you make a few base sets, and maybe you could get $10 for it on the secondary market because there's just so much of it. So in a way, I'm glad that there's going to be less base cards because there's still going to be plenty of base cards, enough base cards for every man, woman, and child who wants base cards or a base set. So I'm kind of glad about it in a way. I didn't really have a question. I guess I was just kind of.
You're on the side that it's a good change. So I appreciate the obviously the feedback, and you mentioned base cards and parallels, and I think the one thing that the production team has done good on our side is just to differentiate and create some equitable insert content. It's not just parallels of the base set, whether it's the Dazzlers has garnered some good sort of equity on the market, and the population count is another one. They've really done a good job of creating some unique sort of inserts. The portraits is another one that's a flagship to this set. So, there is a lot of differentiation and some unique designs, within this set and innovative insert content, to really differentiate those. And that's what makes, in my opinion, UD1 such a fun break. And, I'm excited. Now you're going to get 36 inserts instead of 24.
So it's only a modest increase.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up a couple of those because there's a couple of things I wanted to bring up about some of those inserts, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So pop count, I see that those are now acetate.
Yes.
They weren't last year, but they are this year.
Correct.
So why the change?
Well, you know what? Typically, our collectors have welcomed the acetate cards, even dating back to the Phenom cards from the Tim Hortons set. So we believe that going to a sort of more premium stock would help drive even further secondary and sort of value on the hobby. Whether that, you were a proponent sort of like the initial design, but we're always looking to sort of elevate some of the inserts, especially when the initial sort of reaction is a good one. And I heard a lot of good things about this sort of insert. So, we don't rest on our laurels. We want to continue to innovate. And that was one that we thought would even boost the insert even further.
So it had nothing to do with, well, these look like a graded card, so let's make them plastic like a graded card.
I would have to ask Billy about that, but no, it's honestly just trying.
That was my initial thought. So then I was like, well, why didn't they do that last year? I mean, they were plastic. They're always plastic. Yes. That's what graded cards are.
You know what? And Billy that could have been one of his reasons. Honestly, he's always trying to create sort of those unique connections, and that would be one that would seem like a reasonable one with sort of an acetate, sort of one touch.
I like the cards that are printed on PETG. I'm not going to even try to pronounce what that stands for. I'll just embarrass myself. But the acetate cards, like Clear Cut, or like I know for some time Upper Deck Ice cards were printed on like that clear plastic. Yep. I want all hockey cards to be printed on that. Has that ever been a consideration?
It's a challenge, especially like that was one during, that's one of the substrates that was hard to acquire during COVID because of all of the plastic masks and use of plastics and all of that. So it was very hard to acquire and, led to all sorts of challenges.
Good old styrene gate from a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm a fan of acetate for sure. And, we're always looking for some unique substrates. And, in the Tim Horton set, we did motion coat last year. This is one that I like as well.
I know you brought up portraits too, and we had Billy on the show before, and we had a nice long conversation with him a while back.
Did you guys check out the initial designs?
Yeah. And when we talked about it before, we heard his madness when it comes to coming up with portrait cards, and I had a couple theories going into it as far as future designs. So, I mean, I don't know if you know the background on this one or not, but portraits is always the one that cracks me up because it grinds people's gears, and I never know why. Because part of this, the designs are quirky and they're different, and they even fall into that quote unquote joke category because they're a fun design, and I don't think they're even meant to be taken that seriously. Yeah. But yet people freak out about these designs. To me, this year, they remind me of those royal pet pictures. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I've seen them.
People get their dogs taken with looking like a king or a queen or a court jester or something. That's what they remind me of. So yeah, I don't know if that's where the idea came from, but that's
what I got to give kudos where kudos is due. And Billy has always done a good job innovating this insert into a whole new stratosphere, right? We had the sort of Step Brothers design, and then we had the Saved by the Bell design, and now he's outdone himself with these portrait cards, and each one is unique. You obviously can see the Connor in the solicitation presentation, but it's a unique one this year, and I think it's one that the mass majority are going to enjoy because there's some unique cards.
Besides Series 1, I know we could talk more about that, but what other products are you maybe looking forward to coming out for this season or for next season?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Metal Universe hockey. I know we've just, sort of started to release that product. I think it was year 2 this year, but that's bringing that product back. That's a lot of fun. Obviously, the PMGs and a lot of those historical inserts that we're able to play off of. I'm a big fan of sort of the light effects designs and the unique cards. I know everyone is always up in arms about how they grade, but it's an extremely difficult technology to pull off. And that's just a nature of the cards, right? And, you go over the history of the PMGs dating back to, the originals with Jordan, and they've always been maybe a tougher on the grade, but they've really carried secondary values, and just the brand equity in that insert is unbelievable. So to bring that back in hockey and some of those sort of retro designs, Platinum Portraits, the Jambalayas, and that's one of my favorite brands to work on.
Is there going to be a Metal Universe for next year? We had 21-22 come out in 22-23. So are we going to eventually get a 22-23 Metal Universe?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. Likely, I won't give a specific date, but we have it in the pipeline.
You can break it here first. No,
and then we'll hold you to it.
Yeah. So, but it is in the works. So that I see as an annual product. Obviously, from the technology side, it's a little tougher to pull off, but you can see it. We obviously have Metal Universe Champions on our multi-sport side. We've introduced that with some of our other licensees like AEW. So, that's one of the brands that has long-standing equity here with Upper Deck, and to sort of see a renaissance there has been a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, I got to ask a question, and you might not know the answer to this, but I got to ask anyways. So Upper Deck Series 1 and Series 2, you could buy tins of them at big box retailers, right?
Yeah.
And then you make a set called Metal, but they come in cardboard blaster boxes.
Yeah, that's a
why don't the metal blaster boxes, why aren't they tins? Wouldn't that a collector's tin of Skybox Metal?
See, that's why we solicit feedback all the time. I see the brand fit. That's a natural fit, and you should be a brand manager.
I like that.
Exchange information after the call.
Yeah. No, just the lead time and production time on tins is challenging. We used to have a tin with Premier, but one of the things too is how many people actually collect the tins. That's another factor, right? And I think that would be a good debate on either side. But I think that certain tins maybe weren't as collectible. And one thing that we've done, we've actually really, the tin is one of the most reconfigured products in the UD1 lineup. We've moved to a more expensive price point, and we've added more content into that SKU to sort of make it more collectible, because that's really at the core. The tin was meant to be, was a more collectible item. And honestly, I think sort of making it a more premium offering will sort of hopefully make those tins more collectible. And I've definitely had conversations with people in the hobby that could care less about the tin, and some that have. So it's a good debate. Another one to chalk it up on the debate board. But that is something that I want to see moving forward, is those tins really become collector's items.
I guess that brings up a good point with the configuration change on the hobby boxes. Is the same happening to retail as well on the packs?
Yeah, it's straight across the board. It's going to be 12 cards per retail pack as well. So some of the retail SKUs will get less packs than what we've sort of commonly been used to. And then the tin is actually going to a more premium price point, and there's going to be an exclusive Dazzlers pack in the tin.
Purple?
Is purple one of the exclusive inserts?
Yeah, that's what I was guessing.
No,
is
not purple. It is the red, the orange, and the black.
Okay.
And the black are pretty hard to find. It's going to be a 3-card Dazzler exclusive pack in the tin.
That just reminded me of something.
Connor Bedard.
Can I ask a serious question about that, since you brought it up?
Well, I thought that's what you were going to say.
I mean,
if it's a good question,
I'll say it. I doubt you'll be able to answer it, and you probably can't talk about it to any extent, but I'm just going to throw it out there.
I think I know what to ask. But
go first. I'm going to ask it.
Sure.
Young Guns, Young Guns Series 1 have traditionally been the holdover rookies from the previous year. Yeah. And exception was made for Lafreniere to get him into Series 1 in 21. Yeah. So with Bedard currently being the hype beast for the 2020s, but without any NHL experience, is there going to be, are we going to see either A, a push to get an exception made for him, B, a delay on production somewhat so they can get pictures of him in a NHL uniform, or go with number 3, we won't see him till Series 2?
Yeah. So in terms of production, I can tell you we're not going to delay the product. UD1 has always been a staple for the Fall Expo show in Toronto, the first week of November. And that is an extremely important date and time for our hobby community.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially with now UD2 and extended in the portfolio, it's extremely important that we get that product out sort of at that time. So we're going to hit that date again, and we did that last year amidst all the challenges. But one of the concessions we had to make up was production timing, and therefore going to all holdovers. And you did note Alexis Lafreniere. That was an exception. That's the only exception that I've ever heard of. So as of now, which is typically the case, we can't feature new skaters until they skate in an NHL game. So as of now, we don't have any plans, or working on an exception with Bedard. Will I say never be never? I would never say never, because we've done it once before, but that's our usual cadence. But it's extremely important to hit that November date, and that's what we plan to do for UD1.
I appreciate you answering that too, because you could easily be like, I plead the fifth and move on.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would never say never, but like I said, typically we don't. And so we'll just have to wait and see. But I think you can expect definitely holdovers for the Young Guns.
There's been history of it happening. I mean, you can go back to McDavid or Matthews. They were both in Series 1, but they didn't have the photos. I mean, I remember 2015 where there was a contest.
Yeah.
Pick the photo you want on McDavid's
right? There's
card.
Innovative ways.
We're no longer doing rookie photo shoots like we have in years past.
Yeah. No, we do. but even with those dates, we wouldn't be able to hit sort of November. Yeah. So typically our rookie photo shoot is in September. At least it was last year around Labor Day, so it's usually in that August timeframe. So, still with that, I don't think we would hit our dates.
That's a good jumping off point for a question I had. Obviously, we went through from a collecting standpoint with product not being released in all sports just because of all the production delays and so on and so forth. Obviously, you can't throw out a date. But are you guys targeting a certain time when Upper Deck will be caught up with scheduled releases that have been put on the books previously? Like a quarter 4 of this year, or quarter 1 of next year?
Honestly, that is extremely tough to know and probably above my pay grade. What I can tell you is that we're committed to getting caught up and getting products
out. Jason on the show. He'll answer.
Yeah. And honestly, over the last 3 months and, looking into April, May, June, we have a lot of big products coming out. And I hope that you guys see that, that we're getting back to, products coming out every 2 weeks, and we've really had a flow. Although, yes, it is split year with some previous year products. It's going to take us time to get caught up. But what we can commit to is getting products out. And I hope that you guys see that. I know UD2, we're only 2 days away. SPA's shortly behind, obviously different years. But we're getting sort of those core releases out and really doing our best to get caught up.
And we talk about this on our show a lot as new releases and when they come out, and we preview sets as they're being released and that kind of thing. And it was just interesting with this announcement with saying, okay, going forward, we're going to change the configuration here. And then, oh, by the way, like a day later, hey, Series 2 is coming out. And it was like, wait, what? Wait, I can't process all this. It's too much, like all at once, because everybody's been waiting for Series 2. So we get the checklist and everybody's freaking out because certain players aren't on the Young Guns list or whatever. And it's like, listen, people, these have already been in the works for months and months and months and months. So if your guy just debuted a month ago and he's got 17 goals, sorry. And that's kind of the reality that obviously you guys hear.
It's a good reality that we're living in. Obviously, there's a lot of new collectors that have been introduced to card collecting hockey cards over the past 24 months, but a lot of them don't have the history and sort of the insights into how the processes go, and that's part of educating our customers, your show, other podcasts, at the shows and all that. But I think it is a benefit because we've got a lot of new people in the hobby, over the past 24 months.
Do you see any foreseeable pushback based off of the increase in pack pricing for the upcoming product?
I think there's going to be some, but if you look at it at the box level, we're pretty much on par from where we were last sort of configuration. So we were at, I think, a $449 or $499 pack. So, on the box level, it's not going to change, and that was another consideration. Yes, on a per pack price, but on the box level, it's going to be right on par. And that's, I think, a huge win, because how many pack purchases are there out there nowadays? I think from my standpoint, I see a lot of more people breaking boxes of trading cards rather than packs. But yeah,
you do get that. I mean, you definitely get that because you don't see that part of it. But I think more to if I walk into my local card shop and here comes mom and her 2 kids and hey, here's $10. They each get $10. Go buy some packs. Well, that sum is now 1. Yeah. So
no, and that's true.
There's not as much of that. Obviously, that's not the norm anymore. Yeah. But it's just kind of an exception thing. My concern always when the new products come out, everybody freaks out and they're like, oh, well, this is going to be a $300 box, or this is going to be a $500 box, $700 in Canada. Obviously, you guys don't want to alienate the diehard supporters, but you have to evolve, and I get it. I think there's a fine line because clearly the manufacturer doesn't control pricing. I mean, you don't control market pricing. You make your product, you know what it costs. Once it's out the door, it's out the door. Yeah. But I'm sure you guys watch and pay attention to secondary market transactions on product. You have to.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
Even if you don't care about it, you got to watch.
Yeah, I do.
So if you're clock watching on that, especially with the young guns, and you're watching auctions and you're watching sales and you're seeing where these products go, you have to know with this rolling out, whether he's in Series 1 or Series 2, a Bedard 1/1 Young Gun is going to be the biggest card that's ever been produced by Upper Deck up to this point. It just is.
It's going to be fun to watch, right? And I'm glad you brought up Bedard, because obviously each rookie class is highly anticipated, but it's only rare when you kind of get a sort of a generational talent. And,
right.
It's hard to predict 10 years down the road, but what he's done up to this point with pretty much every World Junior Canadian record ever. Same first name as Connor McDavid, who's the best player currently in the world, having his best season. He is probably the most highly anticipated prospect since McDavid. No pressure. What he's done to this point has been pretty amazing. And so I would agree with you, the timing of it. We lucked out with sort of launching that 1/1, and we'll all just have to wait and see on how the market responds.
I mean, just thinking out loud, this could feasibly be $1,000 base card, and that Young Gun 1/1, that could be the first hockey card that's over $100,000 easily.
New hockey card, like current.
Yeah, with a new current one. You could guarantee that it'll either, Blowout already did it with the Topps Golden Mirror thing, so maybe they won't be in on this one. But somebody's going to put a bounty on that card. Someone is going to do it.
I would agree.
Yeah. It's actually maybe a little cool in a way that there'll be some attention. See, I like my things to get enough attention that they keep going.
This is a discussion we always have. It's a double-edged sword.
I want hockey cards to be popular enough that you guys keep making hockey cards. But when they become so popular that everybody's buying them, and then I have to, I don't say compete with others. I mean, there's always a little competition, but if it's super popular, then it's like, okay, now I can't find packs anywhere. At the same time, I think it's kind of cool that, hey, here's a hockey card that sold for $20,000 or whatever, like a new card, not like a graded Gretzky. Oh, cool. Our hobby's getting some attention, and it's kind of positive, in a way.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, fun to watch. And the part of how the market reacts, we have no control over that. That's a unique thing about sports cards. People are drawn to sort of the rookie class, right? And so if Connor Bedard, continues his success, and just in general, there's likely going to be some new eyeballs in collecting hockey cards next year. And I think that I can tell you right now is likely going to happen, which is a good thing. That's just one of the ways that the market reacts, and which makes the hobby so much fun.
Tim talked about how it takes a while for the players to make it into cards, hey, this guy just had 17 goals and he's really popular, but he's not going to be in the set of cards coming out next month or 3 months from now or whatever. Would you just outline the process a little bit of what it's like to develop a set of cards from the beginning, hey, we have this idea, we're going to make a set called Synergy, or we're going to make a set called Compendium, or we're going to make a set called Metal Universe or whatever. So from that idea stage all the way to the production stage, because there's a lot of things that people don't see or know about or even consider.
I think the key thing is just the timeline. On average, it's a 12-month production cycle. And that's from Billy, making the original brief through, the design stage and the building stage and the photo stage and the type stage and acquiring the autograph stage and acquiring the mem stage. But just throwing that sort of timeline out there, that really puts it into perspective. So these cards are getting built long before sort of consumers see it in the marketplace. And what complicated things during COVID is that all of those items became tougher to do, because supply shortages, production lead times increased, production challenges, just in terms of even in the facilities and dealing with stoppages and starts and all that. So that even lengthened more than 12 months, sort of in COVID. Now we're starting to finally get back to sort of some normal production timings, but that's a long time. And that's a lot of steps that I rattled off. And that's really what it boils down to, is that these products are difficult to produce. Each year is a new class of rookies that we have to put into the products. So it's not the same product, rinse and repeat every year. We have a new sort of checklist every year. And obviously at the same time, we're trying to innovate and bring some new things to the category. So it is a complex business. And honestly, I've had Lens on the other side working for the licensor, and I didn't have the full scope of the intricacies of producing a trading card. And, you know, I wish I had this scope all the time, because I used to just complain when my release dates didn't hit and, you know, why certain things didn't get done. But now I do have that lens, and it's just a very complex process. There's a lot of steps and a lot of different departments that touch each product. But that's what makes, you know, the final product so fun once it finally gets out the door.
I know in the past it was announced that there was going to be a set of trading cards for the PHF, the Women's Hockey League, and there was the 3 cards that were sold via EPAC. Is that still going to happen, or has that been delayed for one reason or another?
Yeah, no, we still are in talks and doing sort of a box set for this year. We have had some challenges. They're sort of a new property, and just establishing and getting photos of each of the athletes and autos and all of the assets that goes into it. You know, I know we did the preview set that was sort of welcomed with open arms, sort of with the All-Star game last year, but we are hoping to still have a box set for this season. It's just slightly delayed sort of getting out. What I can tell you is just in general is the growth of the women's game. You know, we're excited to continue to highlight sort of women in our products. And, you know, we did that with sort of the Team Canada Tim Hortons set last year, and we're going to be doing it soon with Tim Hortons Legend set that's going to release in 2 weeks. So
glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you about that. Because you brought up working on the Tim Hortons set being one of your favorite things to do. Yeah. And I saw Tim Hortons Legends pop up. Yeah. And I'm like, I got to ask Paul about this one.
Yes.
We don't have Tim Hortons in the United States for the most part, and what very few we do, they don't sell cards. So for those that don't know, obviously Tim Hortons has a set every year that Upper Deck puts out in conjunction with their stores. Now there's a Tim Hortons Legend set. So if I don't know anything about this, tell me about that set.
Yeah, so it's going to be our second Tim Hortons release this year, because we did launch Flagship in October. And the Legends set is just going to feature just that, Legends of the game. So there's 70 in the base set. I think the base set's 100 cards. There's 75 retired men's legends, and then there's 25 retired women's legends.
Wow.
And the women's are obviously going to be featured in their Hockey Canada sort of photography, but we're talking Jana Hefford, Haley Wickenheiser, you know, a lot of the key legends. And that's what I was saying, just the growth of female sort of collectors and women's sports in general. I don't know if you've seen some of the women's NCAA championship, but a lot of their sort of TV metrics are outpacing that of the NBA. So, you know, that's what I'm really most excited about. You're going to get all of the unique substrates that sort of Tim Hortons is known for, you know, the embossed foil board, you know, lenticulars, canvas, you know, but we're really going to be focused on this set is just legends. And, you know, you can still get some packs online for the U.S. collectors. I'm hopeful we can someday replicate, you know, a similar premium, you know, in the U.S.
We got to find a chain or somebody that'd be willing to take this on. Like a Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Yeah, and it's not just about that, honestly. The other thing that is sort of vital, and I'm letting out sort of a brand secret here, is you need an integrated brand that also resonates in the sport of hockey. And, you know, Tim Hortons obviously was an NHLer, a darn good one at that, you know, and they invest in youth hockey initiatives. You know, it's from top to bottom, you know, hockey's integrated into their brand as well. And that's an important piece of what continues to grow the Tim Hortons products. So any U.S. collectors out there that has some ideas to bring sort of a similar promotion, I'm all ears. And, you know, that's something that is on my vision board for sure.
I only brought up Duncan because Pasternak does a pretty good job hawking it. So
yeah,
if him and Kendall Coyne can do it, then
yeah, exactly.
Well
Pasternak can, yeah, he's definitely got that personality that you know would be good for that.
So National Hockey Card Day, there were some changes to it this year, and that's for our listeners. That's on April 15th, Saturday, April 15th in the United States and in Canada, and I believe in some parts of Europe. I don't know if it's the same day, but my question is that instead of having a different U.S. and Canadian set like you've done in years past, this year it's just the same set on either side of the border, and it's a bigger set. It's going to be 31 cards plus checklist instead of 16 cards plus checklist per
Yeah.
country. Why the decision to go with a bigger set that was the same instead of two smaller sets that were country specific?
Well, that's a good question. And obviously, I should have my counterpart, Paul, who's our marketing manager, probably would be best to answer that. But from my perspective, collecting is growing. The hobby is growing in the US and Canada. Upper Deck EPAC has also helped globalize the collecting. We now have customers all over the world. And now we have distributors in Europe. So overall, hockey cards is a global industry. And we felt like it was a good time to sort of bring that together, make it a unified promotion, just so that more collectors worldwide can participate. And the honesty is that our customers are worldwide now. And, it was more so realizing that this was a good time to sort of integrate it.
I'm sure only having one set is a much easier production process too, instead of having multiples.
Yeah, but this one, we're not talking the scale of, a massive product with all the bells and whistles. I don't think it would save us that much, honestly, from a production standpoint, because it's just not on the scale as some of our other products. It more so seemed like a natural evolution with where collecting is going, and especially how many new people have joined and how wide now we're selling hockey cards around the world.
It's fair.
And we're excited about the products and the changes and where our industry is currently. Anytime. And I think, the tough questions keep us on our toes. And like I said, I'm happy to share.
All right, one last question. You can answer yes, no, or no comment. When can we expect to see Grandeur Coins Series 2?
Oh, geez.
No comment. That was before my time. Was that a product that you collected?
Was that a product that anybody collected? Let's be honest.
I still have my one and only Grandeur coin of Sean Monahan sitting on my desk.
You know what? That's one thing. And this is just me with the lens looking outside in as I wasn't here. It seems like coin collectors had a little bit of different recipe. I think that there's some elements there that we could do, but yes, there was some learnings. So I don't see it anytime, at least my little business plan, it's not there. I have one or two in my collection as well. So maybe one day it will be worth $1 million like the next 101 Young Gun, right?
Right. We're out of questions. So thank you for joining us, Paul. It was a pleasure.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. Please write us a review if you get a chance. And please follow us on social media. Tim is at The Real DFG, and I'm at Puck Junk. And until next time, collect what you like.
For more hockey goodness, follow us on Twitter at Puck Junk.